Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to have you all here in this event about no code and low code. My name is Crystal Camaro, and I'm your host for today. I'm as excited as you are to hear insights from CSJ and other no code experts. But first, let me talk about No Code Philippines. No Code PH seeks to empower the no code and low code community in the Philippines. Check out nocode.ph to join for free. Also, just a reminder that if you have questions, don't forget to ask them in the chat box so our speakers can answer them. Now, let's get to it. Our keynote speaker for today is Christian San Jose. He will be talking about how to build a startup without an engineer. Now, how cool is that? Christian is the CEO and founder of UX Plus University, accessible UX education and job placement for career shifters, and is the founder of UX Plus Conference, the largest UX event in Asia. He is also design consultant at Copy.ai and previously head of design at First Circle. Without further ado, here's CSJ.
Everyone. I'm Christian San Jose, CEO and founder of UX Plus. That's composed of UX Plus Conference and UX Plus University. Today, I'm going to talk about how we built a virtual UX school from scratch without hiring an engineer. Super happy to be here with you with the Startup PH community, and let's get to it. So today, I'm going to talk about the state of UX learning in Asia, our no-code stack at UX Plus, and the outcomes that no-code allowed for us. Again, I'm Christian. I'm a designer and now an educator. I've been mostly a designer most of my life. I started many years ago, 15 years ago. Notably, in the past, I did Kobe Bryant's official website, Dwayne Wade's official website, and branding Usain Bolt's official website as well. Usher, which had an interesting problem. He wanted a website that only he can log into to access clothes that he already owns. He wanted to pick from those clothes and wanted to send those clothes to a cart that gets sent to his stylist, and his stylist sends the clothes that he chose to wherever Usher is in the world. So he wanted a website that served only him. So that was an Usher problem. That was interesting to work on. We worked on other branding materials as well. But more recently, I have helped companies like First Circle as head of design, and Copy AI as the first hire focusing on UX. Now, I'm the CEO and founder of UX Plus. So we started as an annual UX conference in 2019, in person in SM Aura. Uh, and it was the largest UX event in Asia by that point, and we did it again in 2020 and 2021. Eventually scaled it to an online event, which we invited more people, and we grew it to around 3,000 attendees yearly. We just a couple of months ago, we just wrapped up our most recent version of that event, which was super awesome. So by starting UX Plus conference, it gave us so much ideas of how we could possibly scale UX Plus even further, scale the community, and not just do a one-time event. So in January 2021, we turned UX Plus into a live part-time UX learning program. So essentially, students pay nothing until they're hired. So essentially, this is what we built. Um, a live program. We teach it part-time, and students pay nothing until they're hired, as mentioned. Uh, and before I get into the details of what UX Plus University is, I wanted to talk about how we figured that this is the idea to solve, idea to pursue, and problem to solve. So personally, I've always wanted to build a startup of my own. I built ones before, but those were mostly agencies or companies that were much smaller in scale and not really in the sense that could be a startup that scales 10x in 5 years. So I wanted to do a real a startup that's fundable, that's scalable. But as with many founders, just like maybe some of you that are watching, I had no idea what problem to solve. I had the skills, I had some experience, I had some of the network, but as usual, you don't really know until it hits you. And I tried to explore many different problems out there, whether it's like commuting, finance, e-commerce, travel, freelancing, things that might have done or experienced or was frustrated by very early on. And yeah, maybe one of those ideas could be it for me. And as I was exploring this, I was in between jobs and I had to do a couple of workshops, like maximizing what I knew, maximizing what I could offer to everyone. So I did a bunch of UX workshops while I was trying to figure out what startup I was going to build. So, in between jobs, I taught and mentored UX designers from those workshops and also one on one mentorship sessions. So, I needed to earn money. So, for now, that time, I stuck with what I knew. And this was supposed to be a temporary solution for me because okay, maybe I'll get a next full-time job or maybe I'll figure out my startup, but in the meantime I'll just do what's obvious to me. It doesn't require too much work on my end because like I love talking to these students, teaching them. And as I was building these workshops, I figured yeah, why not really invest myself in it. And through conversations with the people that I was mentoring and the workshops that I was doing, the reasons that people were giving me why they wanted to become mentored or like go through a short workshop was that they wanted to get into a UX career. And I felt like what I was providing them, even though it was helpful in the short term, wasn't really getting the job done. Their big goal is to get into a UX career, not just have a 5 hour refresher of what UX is, or not just have someone to talk to weekly to look at their progress. To get into a UX career, you need of course, the instructions, the lectures, you need the mentorship, but you also need a community and you need access to jobs. So I thought to myself, why not UX? Why not this whole career path? Why shouldn't it be the problem that I should solve? So I started building, and initially the idea was that what I would build was something like a Skillshare for UX. Why not pre-recorded courses sold for $150? The people can watch and learn super quickly. And yeah, it seemed like a nice idea, nice enough that I was already designing the landing pages and I was already convinced myself that this is the way to go. I already talked to different people that could do different versions of these crash courses or usability testing or even visual development. And we got all the way to writing the course materials. All we had to do was shoot. Everything was there. The website was almost ready to get launched. But then I tried applying to Y Combinator. So as you know, Y Combinator, big, well-known accelerator or venture fund. And I realized as I was applying to Y Combinator, I realized that my initial idea sucked. It was really bad. I realized that because when you apply to any accelerator, when you talk to even any investor, as many of you might know, um, your problem must be immense. It must be big enough. Your solution must be compelling, and your team must be the right team to solve it. Like that's generally, among many other things, that's generally what some or most focus on when trying to ask why you, why should we invest in you. So knowing these three things, the problem, the solution, and the right team, um, as I was writing it, I figured that UX Plus at that state, the pre-recorded course version wasn't really it. It wasn't really the right idea to pursue, because as I was writing it, I actually changed the idea, like what we worked on for a couple of months. The idea changed while I was filling out the application, because I felt like whatever we had wasn't venture backable, wasn't venture fundable. Nobody essentially would invest in a company that makes $150 per customer. Yeah, you'd have to have hundreds and thousands of customers for it to make sense for investors. And also, I figured that I was only pursuing the initial idea for myself. Like maybe I wanted a lifestyle business, but then now maybe there's a better idea out there. Maybe um, the problem that I should solve, or at least the one in my head, I should explore deeper. And as I was trying to find a more compelling problem, as I was answering it, I did my research for a couple of days. Aside from the things I already knew, I figured three important things. The cost of UX education is super high, and the salary of designers are low, as we know, and we need more than pre-recorded courses. So what do I mean? So if you Google, for example, what does a UX designer earn or a UX professional earn when they first get in job, all the articles that show up are articles from the Western world, that where it costs probably 50,000. Sorry, where the salary is probably $50,000 to $80,000. Super lucrative, super high potential. And when someone that's not in UX sees all of those numbers, it seems very lucrative. But not much articles out there say that, of course, we are in the third world. We are in the Philippines, and we pay even great tech talents, if they're junior, if they don't have experience, we pay anywhere from $12,000 a year, which is around 30,000 pesos a month, to around $17,000 on the high end for juniors. But the global average, as mentioned, is around 40,000, maybe 50,000. So if you see that, and then you compare the salaries or the reality of the salary to the available courses out there, you see Skillshare, you see Coursera, super cheap, but it only has a 67% completion rate. Who here has bought many courses and probably watched two chapters on it and never really finished the whole thing? Like I've always told myself, like when I buy pre-recorded courses, I'll get to it when I need it. Seems super cheap now, or maybe I'll watch this tomorrow, and I'd never end up finishing the pre-recorded course. Look at the other end, where you have master's degree program, or you have bigger courses that comparable to what we are trying to build now. Say for example, General Assembly. You have bigger programs that costs a lot of money but teach us good things. When you look at those, it costs anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. And if you remember, the salary of a junior UX designer in the Philippines is maybe 12,000 if you're lucky. And then the cost of a great program is $15,000. So that doesn't line up. Like you have to spend a year's worth of your salary just to get into a career that you don't know will be fulfilling for you. So, yeah, so many problems, whether it's like the availability of learning platforms and also access to jobs. So we're making it really hard for everyone to be UX designers. Like with all of these things that we're seeing at the current state of the industry, it's it seems super hard to become a UX designer. And maybe the path is similar to my path, where I was a graphic designer many, many, many years ago. And then I stumbled upon UX, and then I transitioned into UX. So there. So there are definitely big problems to be solved here. So to learn UX, it's not just about the lectures. It's about community, it's about mentorship, learning from others, applying those learnings right away. It's learning from failure, it's failing and then learning, it's failing, learning, getting feedback super quickly, and access to career opportunities after you graduate. And all in all, like making this type of education accessible. Outside of all of this, why I mentioned like community mentorship, learning from others, these are things that we experience when we already have full-time jobs. Like when we have full-time jobs, what are our rituals? For example, we do retrospectives. We talk to managers that mentor us weekly. We do we contribute to a larger team. We're not just at the end of a cycle. We're not typically, if you think about designers, traditionally, it's like at the very end, everybody else has figured out the problem for you. You're just the last person at the end to execute it. So having those things in mind, like the realities of the real life of a real life tech job, and then how we're teaching it doesn't really line up. So to learn UX again, it's just not about telling someone that this is what UX is about. It's about many, many other things. But since it requires so many things, how can we build a startup like that has all of that without an engineer? As you know, like when you're talking to an investor, they always say, "What's your tech stack? Who's your CTO? What have you built? Like where's the IP? What's the IP?" Right? So we feel that our main product is actually the courses and the programming that we do, the programming in a sense of like how we program the courses, how we've brought in mentors, how we've designed the curriculum, how we've created the natural moments that people can learn not just from the instructors but also from each other. So that's our true product. So if we feel that that's our true product, of course, engineers can help scale. But then now that we have a good idea of what we should do, should we go to the traditional path of hiring an engineer? So before I tried to answer that question, I took inspiration from a cohort-based course I was in, which was on deck. It was amazing. It's a 3 month, 2 to 3 month learning program where you meet other people in 8 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks, and you learn a lot from those people. They're peers. They're already maybe even founders. They might be designers, other no coders. And I joined the On Deck No Code Fellowship for one, and then I eventually joined the On Deck Design Fellowship. And how they've designed their program was amazing. It was, I thought I was just gonna learn, but I got so much more. I learned from the community. I was inspired by the energy. Of course, I attended some of the guest talks, but then it was more of the culture that the company brought to the table, and being part of it made you proud to actually put on deck on your profile, like I'm an on deck fellow or something like that on your LinkedIn. So how could I recreate that in a 4 month learning program? I tried to get what they did and say, for example, everything from how they built certain directories, for example, like community directories. They built most of it at the very start with no code. Like they use platforms like Webflow, MemberStack, which I'll go through later, which was super interesting. Like they did it themselves. So it was inspiring for me because I was already doing a bit of no code for the conference. Things like a certificate generator using Zapier, for example. So like when how this was built was when we get a form submission on Webflow, I throw that to an Airtable that gets all the records, and then I throw the information from Airtable to Google Slides, which we have a template in there, and then from there I take the PDF and send that over Gmail, because Google Slides generates not just the file itself but also a PDF. So it made all of that possible without me even contacting a single engineer. It was super obvious once you get into it. The user experience of Zapier was super straightforward, that I just tried it and I figured it out. And it was super interesting because I didn't know I could do all of this. So if I could possibly do a certificate of attendance and connecting different tools, and Zapier is the catalyst of all of that, Zapier, Airtable, and then they just need a trigger, like information comes from somewhere, right? Like it could be a Google form, a Webflow form, and then I get to send that to whoever wrote the form, so I can pull in information from the very start and then call it at the end. Maybe this could work because I've designed websites like these before, but it wasn't this easy. So this was maybe 2020, start of 2020, where I was doing a bunch of these things. Before that, I was dabbling in Webflow already, but I treated it more like a landing page builder. Really wanted to maximize what Zapier was capable of. So I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. So I figured that there are certain steps to build an online school. So if I think about it end to end, just like getting a form and sending a certificate to a student, what's the whole process there? So there's a student application, there's managing a class, there's getting a job, and then there's sustaining careers. And then internally, we need some sort of CRM, a database. We need to collaborate with each other, and many other things. So there are many steps and many things that I had to build so that this is scalable, and I felt I could possibly do this. So I got to work, and I tried to map it out. This is not accurate anymore, but I tried to find no code tools for each step. Essentially, from logging in, what people see online, how they pay, um, uh, creating the account for the students. I tried to map it all out. Like, how will this become a reality by just using no code tools? So I looked at different things from Calendly, which you might be familiar with, all the way to Zoom, all the way to Webflow, Zapier, which I already mentioned before. Even payments, like I looked into Stripe. Could I figure out how to use Stripe eventually? And at the core of our stack are Webflow, Zapier, and Airtable. So basically, this is these three things are our main platform. So again, we usually build with Webflow, which is amazing. Our website is built not by an engineer, but by me. Like I just used Webflow to build it, and it's super duper easy to understand and learn. They have amazing tutorials in their Webflow university, and then also their YouTube channel. And I basically did that for like 3-4 days, and then this was in late 2019, and I figured how to build websites, and I've been building Webflow websites ever since. And all of these could be done in Webflow. All the fancy animations, the moving mouse, like it's super easy. You just have to search it on YouTube and you'll figure it out. So again, our no-code stack, we start with a written application and we use Typeform. So Typeform, you might know this, similar to Google Forms, but has a fancier user experience. So we use it for the written application. We just embed it on the Webflow site, and super easy. That's hooked up to our Airtable and also our Slack, so we get notifications every time someone applies, and then we also get to track how many applications we have. Of course, Typeform has its own database, but just having the ability to connect directly from Typeform to our other tools, enables us so much. So just having the notification for on Slack, for example, gives us a good qualitative idea that, oh, there's many applications a day, or check out this application, it seems interesting, maybe we should consider her for the next batch, something like that. So it enables so much. Video application, we use video ask, which is super interesting. So video ask is this: so you record yourself to ask the questions, and then people record their answers, that why they want to join the program, or for example, what you're seeing is right now is tell us about yourself, over there. So video ask is an amazing tool for us to asynchronously go through hundreds and hundreds, like over 500 applications in our previous batch, um, without booking a time synchronously, like without going to them live, just to see how they speak, how they are in on video. We didn't have to go through one-on-one conversations. We just recorded ourselves, recorded our questions, and then the students sent in their video versions of their applications once they pass the written application stage. Next thing is the design challenge. Super easy. We just have a password enabled page on the Webflow site, which has an embedded type form, and it all goes to our Airtable, where we get an idea of what the answers of the students are. So that's Typeform. Next, for registration, we have MemberStack. As mentioned, we use Webflow a lot, but Webflow doesn't have, at least right now, or maybe up until the start of next year, it still doesn't have registration. So it doesn't allow that layer of that membership layer that makes websites more like a SaaS. Like essentially, if you're a SaaS, you need membership, right? Like you need people signing up, you need people paying through that platform, you need people filling in information, and then they can log in, log out, forgot password, all of that. They don't have that layer built in, and MemberStack, super easy to integrate with Webflow. We use MemberStack to enable that for our Webflow page. So super easy, everything from first name, last name, we integrate that to fancy components within Webflow. And then we could get to ask students what their goals are, and it shows up on our Airtable. And it also allows us to connect from MemberStack to the next thing, which I'll be discussing. So MemberStack has a single sign-on for circle.so, where our discussions happen. Super important. Where do the students go to learn more about the program, daily, weekly, get the assignments, find the recordings, chat with each other, find the jobs, book mentorship calls, and many things. Like, where is their hub? So signing up previously from MemberStack allowed us to connect to Circle, which is essentially like they only have one login to get into different parts of our platform. So let's go back to sorry about that. Let's go back to MemberStack. So this MemberStack is connected to many of our platforms, including, of course, Classroom, and also our wiki, which I'll talk about later. But also within Circle, before going to that, we have Calendly, of course, like people can book one-on-one calls with their mentors every week. So we have just embedded Calendlys on our Circle. Um, and for our wiki, people get to access our wiki, and we use Super SO and Notion to have a website that's easier to access, rather than like giving them public Notion links. We can brand it a little bit, and they get to access all of that because we enabled it through MemberStack. Next, we have Hunter for our job applications. We get to track students' job applications. Again, Super SO for our student profiles. So we build student profiles. We have some assessments of our students. So that's super interesting as well. We send that student profile over to our partners. And also, these students, when they're trying to get a job, they want to access jobs that are available to them, and what our partners enable for them as well. So we do that through UX Plus Jobs, which we built over Webflow as well. And our students need portfolios to get hired, so we use Type Dream. We teach them Type Dream so that they can essentially get started, have a place where they can house their case studies. Case studies essentially is the proof for UX designers that they can actually do these designs. So that's amazing. Super easy for them to get into. We didn't have to teach them Webflow. Essentially, think of Type Dream like a Notion, but has better design tools. So as easy as that. So we taught them Type Dream, which is amazing. Next, we have Webflow for our resources site, which we're launching super soon. Think of UX Plus resources, this for the larger UX Plus community, not just for our students, but think of this as an easy way to access resources that we've curated, over 1,700 of them, resources that might be helpful for you. So we have different categories and you can vote them up. Think of it like Product Hunt, but for UX resources. So something that we just did on the side, we're not charging anything for it for now. And we use Webflow for that. And also Webflow and I forget which one. I'm sorry, but yeah, we used another tool to get the vote up, and also many other features that you'll see pretty soon. This we're launching this in November. Next, we have our type form for our partnerships. Again, we don't just need to talk to students, we need to talk to hiring partners that are understand what the value of great UX design is. And that's what we're doing with these partnership pages. And we have an embedded type form to enable that communication. And then, of course, we have events over in Butter and in Zoom. Not necessarily no code tools, but we have it integrated through our different platforms. Internally, we have many different things from ConvertKit. Um, Say, for example, if any student sends us any information through any form, we add that to ConvertKit if it's necessary, so we can publish announcement broadcasts to them. Um, CRMs, again, it's Airtable. We use Deal, which is not a no-code tool, but it just makes our payroll so much easy. So we're registered in the US, so we use Deal for that. Partly Stripe, partly PayPal, to get our payments and payroll going. Then again, for our overall database for all our platforms, we use Airtable. And then we use Slack for collaboration, and we get notifications if they allow for it from all of these tools whenever something happens. So that's our hub for collaboration and just getting notified. So what did no code build for us? 500 plus applications without paid marketing, which is amazing. Applications from all over the world, mostly Philippines, and we're launching in the US pretty soon as well. 100K in seed funding within 1 month of launch through a reality show, which you might have seen on CNN. So didn't expect to go through a reality show to get funding, but you have to do what you have to do. And then 31 amazing graduates from our first batch. And yeah, I hope I've shared my audio, because here's a testimonial.
Hi, my name is Mariel Lopez, and I am part of the first batch at UX Plus University. And I just want to say that this bootcamp has been such a wonderful experience for me. I really learned so much and grew so much as a designer. And UX Plus definitely preps you to get into the industry by the end of the 16 weeks. So if you're serious about UX, this is the bootcamp for you. And just want to give a special shout out to everyone at UX Plus, and from the first batch, you guys are awesome, and I'm so happy that we met and everything. All right, bye.
All right. So no code allowed for us to teach the next generation of designers more efficiently. And I've always hesitated with my ideas in the past because it was often hard to find technical co-founders. I always stopped myself that with pursuing an idea because, man, it's gonna be hard to develop this, or it's gonna be I need someone that is as passionate about the problem that I want to solve as me. And that's not always a given when trying to pursue startups. And no code allowed for us to do so many things, to not just build a startup, but enable outcomes, just like as you've heard from the testimonial. Now we're going on our second batch. We're teaching more students now. And the things that the students are capable of after 16 weeks or even after 10 weeks are amazing. And we never believed, we had a good gut feeling, but we didn't really know that we were doing something good until maybe the 10th week or the 11th week, when they were already working with clients to produce their case studies. So that was an amazing feeling that no code is an important part of our journey, but really, like, to get to an outcome, we had to do so many things. And essentially, without no code, we wouldn't have the opportunity to get started anyway. So that's what no code allowed for us. Hope you can try it too. Um, that's it for me. Thank you. I'm Christian San Jose. You can follow me on Twitter at CSJ89. And you can join us for the next batch next February at uxpl.us. Thanks, everyone.
That was so interesting, wasn't it, guys? It's amazing how no code helped CSJ and his team teach the next generation of designers more efficiently. Personally, I love learning about their no-code stack and how it helps them run UX Plus, from student applications to internal processes. I'm sure all of us learned a lot from our keynote speaker. Please give a virtual round of applause for CSJ. Again, let me remind you that you can ask your questions in the chat box. Now, let's hear it from our esteemed panel for a discussion on no-code. They will mostly be talking about how no-code and low-code can help startups. Our panel moderator today is Minri Makapugay. Minri is a former UI/UX developer turned no-code creator entrepreneur. She is the other half of CompLab, a no-code agency who are highly focused on helping Adalo makers customize their app through design, custom components, and ready-made components. She has great experience working in industries from fashion, beauty, and e-commerce. She has shipped more than 20 e-commerce sites for both global and local players. She also co-founded a few startups built under no-code or low-code. Hi, Minri.
Sorry. Hi, Crystal. Thank you for having me. So I'm super excited as fellow no coders. I'm really excited to learn more about our panel and at the same time share more about no code and how it would greatly help your business and as well as your, of course, if you're planning to start your own startup, it could be the first step on validating your startup as well. So I'm so excited to introduce our panel and basically learn more about the things they're doing with no code and low code. So shall we start?
Okay.
Wait, let's introduce everyone. Let's go.
Now for our panel speakers. Our first panel speaker is Arup Maiti. Arup is the CEO and co-founder of QuickReach, president and CEO of Blast Asia. He is also an adjunct faculty at the Asian Institute of Management for Innovation Management and Agile Project Management since 2005. Arup is the founder of Spring PH, startup support subgroup under Philippines Software Industry Association that has mentored over 70 startups and partnered with DICT in training over 500 teachers on Lean Startup for Philippine Startup Challenge. He has been engaged as a director at PSIA with 190 industry member companies and $2.5 billion outsourcing revenue, and has served as a director over last 10 years, helping shape the industry through capability development, policy, and marketing. Arup holds a bachelor's degree in engineering, master's in business administration from the Asian Institute of Management 1997, certified in traditional PMP, and Scrum Master for Agile. Hi, Sir Arup. I think you're on mute.
Thank you very much. That was quite a long intro, but thank you very much.
Okay, our next panel speaker is Cisa Leses. Cisa Leses is a Filipino-Canadian product designer that steers a lot of ships. She's able to do so thanks to her mastery in facilitating design sprints and building tech with no code. First, she is the captain at Design of the Boat, an all-women product design crew for all-women founders dedicated to social impact. She is also the US user experience lead at Needs List, an AI-powered platform for humanitarian aid. Earlier this year, she was one of the founding fellows at the inaugural On Deck No Code Fellowship, where she finished as the second runner up with a product she built in 7 days. More recently, Sisa has stepped into the role of senior lead learning experience designer at our Wave Hub, a future skills tech education program. Hi, Sisa.
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for having me.
Thank you also. Joining us in this panel is Luis Sunga. Luis is a project manager in FDev, the technology venture and innovation arm of Philinvest Group. In the past year, he has been overseeing various co-ventures, corp startup partnerships, and the digital roadmap of Philinvest's real estate and hospitality subsidiaries. Luis is an experienced technology leader with a demonstrated history of working with startups and large corporations, playing a variety of roles in his career, from software quality to technology operations to product management. Hi, Luis.
Hi, Crystal. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
We're also excited to have you here. And we also have Kelvir Canillo. Kelvir Canillo is the managing director of WebWorks Design Studio with a specialization in website development and co-founder of Creative Rooks, a UI/UX design agency. He is also a certified product innovator, a UI/UX practitioner, and a design consultant in a software development company here in Cavite. Mastered his design skills by collaborating with other entrepreneurs and provide solutions to problems in the community. His company is the first web expert in the Philippines approved by Webflow. Hi, Kelvir.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Now let's get this panel started.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So hi guys. Before we start, siguro kape muna tayo, no? Para chill lang yung discussion natin because we're going to talk about no code and low code and of course to inspire the future startup founders of the Philippines. So maybe we can start with a short introduction about yourself and what your company does and how does your company help no coders and low coders in the space. So maybe we can start first with Sir Aru. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We started building a no-code platform ourselves named QuickReach about 3 years ago. And it has been in the market since last, but actually at the start of all the COVID and the lockdown. And it's a process digitalization and automation platform where the back-end processes and complicated workflows, automation integrations can be easily done. And not only that, on the top of Quick Reach, we also have created another startup, which is Steer. So Steer is a business that helps construction companies with their digitalization needs. So yes, I mean, not only we built the no-code platform that is being used in 4 countries now, we also created a startup on the top of our own platform.
Perfect. So, how about you, Sir Kelver?
Yeah. So my company is WebWorks Design Studio Incorporated. So we are a website agency focused on building beautiful websites that are relevant to our customers' businesses. Some of our clients actually is Shawarma Shop, Tom's World, if you know Max Collins, so a celebrity, Startup Village, and also Toyota. So WebWorks actually is a spin-off business of Lintech Network Solution, which is an app and system development company. So they have this special program called E2E, or the Employee to Entrepreneur program. So every employee has an opportunity to own a business or startup. Then I'm the one I'm a one of their product. So I work them as their UI/UX head designer. So I had a chance also to manage my own company. So for the last 8 years, actually, I'm seeing the process of creating website is not evolving or changing. So I asked myself back then, so is there any way that designers can develop a website without writing a single line of code or knowing how to program? Or and vice versa, do developers can create a website in a visual way? So 2 years ago, I found this low code or no code approach, and now we've been doing visual developments for our customers. So right now, together with my team, we're doing a series of meetups every month for the low code and no code community. So we are sharing our knowledge and expertise to the students, young web developers and designers, and even startups about this approach. So we encourage them to join and still try this in their career or in their product and be updated on what's happening in this space.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Great to know. You're also an Webflow expert agency, right?
Yep. So I'm also a Webflow community head chapter. So in Cavite. So yeah, together with CSJ. So CSJ is heading the Manila part or the Makati.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. I want to hear it from the girl side. So, Sisa, we wanted to learn more about your product design journey and how you started a no code business as well.
All right. Well, I run a design practice called Design Off the Boat. So what we do is we're an all-women product design crew for women founders in social impact tech here in Toronto. So we help eliminate the technical barriers to entry into tech entrepreneurship through design sprints and no code. And as we know, no code does bring down, the time and the cost to start from a third, or even if you're a fifth, if you're lucky, right? So we also create learning experiences on design and tech for schools, incubators, and accelerators here in Canada. I got started on my no code journey. I was actually in the Philippines when COVID started, and I was stranded, and I'm trying to rally up people to other Filipino Canadians that needed to get a flight back here before everything shut down. And the way I did that was to build my first no code app on Glide. I already was running a design agency then, but it really changed our entire business model to actually be able to build and have full control over the execution of our designs. And I didn't have to wait until I could afford developers, and like when even if there are developers, I didn't have to dance with the back and forth. So yeah, it's a little bit about how I got started in no code.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. I love the women on no code and the product design. So, lastly, let's hear it from Luis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Again, so I'm Luis. I'm a product manager from FDev. So FDev, we're a technology venture and innovation arm of the Philinvest Group. And at FDev, we do mainly three things. So we help the Philinvest subsidiaries with their startup partnerships and also help with their digital roadmaps. Second, we invest and we also incubate new digital businesses. And then lastly, and the most important part, we're also a venture builder. So we have our current portfolio in SME financing, which is Investry. We have our own digital bank, which is Como. And then lately, we just launched our B2B e-commerce, Hope. And we also do a couple of co-ventures with our real estate and hospitality subsidiaries. So that's still in stealth mode, but yeah, we hope to release that in the market soon as well. So I'm excited to share actually how FW uses low code in our venture building activities and also corporate digital innovation for Philinvest group of companies.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, So a bit background before I start asking questions here. I used to be a developer. I really suck at it. So I chose no code because it's a lot more easier. It's a lot more scalable. It's a lot more fun. You can do it on a weekend. You can do a quick project and launch it on the side. So the thing is, there's a lot of for me as a developer, we're anti no coders. So we hate no code. So when people think about no code, they see that it's not scalable, it's not gonna work. But we wanted to change the narrative around no code, and we wanted to show people that there's opportunity and there's scalability with no code as well. So I want to hear your thoughts about why should Filipinos care about no code and low code. So anyone in the jury who wants to answer that question, maybe Sir Aru. Sorry, roll call.
No, that's good. That's good. Actually, maybe let me give you a little bit more background on why we even started building Quick Reach, right? And that was part of the motivation because over the last 20 years, I have this another business called Blast Asia. And this is like 100 people plus company. We are purely a product engineering company. So there's like hardcore software developers, and we build software for companies across the world, mostly across the world. In fact, that's another point. And very little business we have done in the last 20 years in the Philippines. And it's not for not wanting to do, but what we realized is most of the business in Philippines was from companies, corporations, right? And even some startups and all. And there is limited budget. One is that, and second, the requirements are always evolving. I mean, the practice of kind of documenting everything tightly and all is not so. I mean, it's evolving now, but it wasn't there, and because of that, projects dragged on. There were last minute changes, etc. So we kind of ended up not being able to make profitable projects in the local market. And we was always thinking that, we've been doing technology. How do we help those that want to do a more flexible development, the ones that have limited budget, right? Because everyone needs to go digital today. There's no alternative, especially with COVID and all. How do we make that happen? As well as, being involved with startups, we realize the biggest crying point of most startup is I don't have a tech co-founder, or even if I have, it's too slow to build, etc. So most of those were the reason that encouraged us to build Quick Reach. As well as when we saw there were other products in like Bubbles and others in the market, they were great in doing the front end. But when it came to building the detailed back end process, like what Christian explained, you need to like create really a mashup of whole different set of tools, and that brings complexity and difficulty, and you have to learn so many different platforms and everything. So we built Quick Reach to address that. So once you learn this, we have an online academy, and if you're starting to build with it, you can build quite complex enterprise grade solution which can scale to 1 million, 2 million user without a problem. And that was the driving force. So and rightly, as many of them say, that especially in startups, your requirement keeps changing, right? Every week, you realize there's a new need, or there's a new positioning you want, or there's a new feature that a lot of your customers are looking for. And if you are trying to do it in a traditional programmed approach, it will mess it up. I mean, other than taking long, the whole code base will be messed up if you're just tinkering and changing every so often, right? It will become a unmanageable mess. So that's where it's perfect to have a no code platform where you can experiment, and down the line, whether you stay on it and scale it, or you build it once it's confirmed, that's the way to go. As well as for enterprise digital efforts, and where they are still trying to figure what will work and what will not work.
Perfect, perfect. That's right. Okay. So my next question is for the designers in the room, for Kelver and Sisa. So how does no code or low code help your business, and how it is disrupting the community, the design community, the product design community? So maybe we can start with the ladies first, just in case you're on mute, Tisa. Okay.
All right, sorry, could you repeat the question? My internet dropped out for a
Okay.
bit.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so as a designer, how does no code or low code help you grow your community, grow your business, give more opportunities, stuff like that?
Well, first of all, our target users are 100%, women-led tech startups, particularly in the social impact space, because tech is already a very male-dominated space, and to add on the roles that women already have in the household, it's become like difficult to start something on your own. So if you're on limited time and resources, design sprints and no code really is a game changer. As a UX designer, I always had to hire a developer to see my ideas come to life, or even just to get a decent user test that isn't a screen on InVision or something like that. Also, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle to find product market fit, because it used to be that getting to the first step was so expensive, and there were also a lot of projects that as a design agency we couldn't take on because we couldn't provide the development services that were needed. And then oftentimes companies would prioritize spending on dev over design. So a lot of designers are working with very low budgets, very little research, and very high resentment for their clients. So no code completely changed that for us. Not only were we able to build products for our clients, the experiences we were able to create were designed with much more intent, with much more data behind it, because we could test even before we design. Um, that's how it really changed our lives.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, it's a lot more faster to build in no code than in code. But at the same time, I want to hear it for Kelvin. As for you
Yeah.
as a designer, how does it help your community, your business, your career as a designer?
Yeah. So actually, at first, I'm not 100% about this no code approach. So because we've been looking for a couple of years now for the best technology stack that we can use for the website development. So we already spent a lot of time trying and testing, but we didn't succeed. So there's the update, maintenance. So we need to study again the programming language from scratch. So that's super exhausting. So 2 years ago, actually, we're not happy anymore with this vicious cycle, and everyone got frustrated in the process in the website development, including our client. So what we want is to break this cycle and give more value to our customers. So we test this no-code tool for this website called the Webflow. So we were surprised by the result. So it improves the collaboration of my team. The designer and developers now are working together instead of fighting each other. So it also improves the process of the creation. It also allows us to build fast for months to weeks. So imagine the time we conserve during the development, and also this is the first time that I get a feedback from my client that they're maximizing or using the website. So because there's a problem in the past years that most of the clients wants a website, but when we turn over the projects, they are intimidated about the admin part or how to manage the website. So it breaks intimidating part. So that the intimidation to the technology was faded. So it transformed my business into something else, and we have more time actually to enjoy and explore new innovative things.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. So I do have a question for the enterprise or company level that are using or utilizing no code. So this is a question for Luis actually. As a venture builder, how do you guys use no code to validate your business or basically use it internally? Maybe you guys can share an overview on how enterprises use it in your
Yeah,
company.
yeah, sure. So as a venture builder, really important for us to get the solutions to customers' hands faster with minimal investment and within a very short amount of time. So also very important to validate ideas on a real environment. Um, So we use like rapid prototyping, experimentation using low code. We've tried a lot of low code applications out there, a bunch of connectors that are compatible with the apps. Um, yeah, so yeah, for us as a venture builder, um, it's really important to that low code really lowers the barrier for innovation for us as a venture builder and as a corporate digital innovation hub as well. So before you need a team of engineers, a bunch of licenses. Now it's just local or a group of locals pieced together. So yeah, at DevDev right now we don't have an engineering team, at least currently. But local has been really helpful for us in a lot of our programs that we run in the corporate.
Perfect, perfect. All right. So, lastly, my question for Sir Aro, before we jump into a lot more discussion part, as a no-code platform, what are the ways you are disrupting the no-code and the creator community?
How are we disrupting? Well, no code is itself big change. The thing is, I think the whole no code movement is at a very early stage, especially now that I look into all aspect. I mean, it's like most of us here, all of you are kind of ahead of the curve. The most of the people still in the tech industry are still trying to do it the old school way. I mean, even if you look around here, um, most of the startups actually have not started using no code, which they should. I mean, especially when they don't have a tech co-founder, and which, like, so frequently I keep hearing, and yet they are still waiting for it, or delaying the project. Instead, they could get online, easily get trained in one or more of the platforms, and start building and offering solutions to their test market, right? So that's something that very easily could be done, that should be happening, I'm hoping. And the other side is on the enterprise companies, right? So lot of departments have their frustrations about how they want to go digital, what tools they want, especially now with COVID and everything happening. They are kind of, people are working from home, no more paperwork is possible, collaboration is different. I mean, you can only do so much by getting onto Zoom or Teams and stuff. So most of them have a huge backlog of systems they want to kind of go back to doing things better, and the IT departments cannot cope with that. In fact, whenever we talk about it, yet a lot of them don't know that they can actually just get on to any of these no code platforms, including like Quick Reach that we have built, and create something on their own in a matter of week of learning and building and all, and disrupt their own industry and meet their own requirements. So I think that's the big thing. Now when it comes to the no code platform itself, we believe with Quick Reach, we have tried building something very different than what is traditionally known, like the names that most of you are talking about, Webflow or the others. Um, Most of them and most of the no code so far have focused on the front end, building quick front end solution, and with certain screen workflow built into that. But once you want to get into more complex business process behind, um, it's not so often seen in the no code, and then you have to start putting together different tools to do it. So I think with us, what we have put together in place, it allows to build something pretty much enterprise grade in matter of days. So and basically not only limit to the front end. I mean, that the nice front end could be any of those tools we talked about, but as soon as, let's say, you want to build a e-commerce cutting edge, and the front end is using whatever Bubble or Webflow or Adalo or anything. Now the back end, where you have to get into the logistics, warehouse, pick and pack, the delivery guy is getting sign off from the delivery, and supplier integration, supply chain. That's an area that typically most no code do not do, or you have to put together many things together. So that's the area we are disrupting with quick reach. So you can actually build a scalable backend system with workflow. We have automation like RPA built into it, integrations, and that's one of the key things that we are doing, and we hope more people can benefit from it.
So, my first question, is no code or low code projects or startups worth investing in by a VC or an angel investor? So, anyone from the team can actually answer it.
Okay, I let me jump into that because this is something I have been actually studying for a long time, and there has been people who have been asking the same question. So there has been articles by VC firms which talks about why they actually prefer startups, especially if the startup is not super deep tech, because there are different kinds of businesses in startup, and the main thing a investor looks for is the business model, and if there is attraction and if it is repeatable, etc. Not so much on what platform it is built on, as long your product itself is not the technology. For example, if imagine Google, right? Or say like Zoom or something. I mean, these are deep tech. The technology is what people are investing on. So those kind of startups would obviously need to build their whole thing, and I don't think any no code can actually do that. But if you are into e-commerce, if you're trying to get into a niche market, or you're building some kind of some kind of networking, or I mean so many other things, that even fintechs and all, um, what investors are looking for is not necessarily the technology, but the business model, the team, how you can scale it, because technology keeps getting replaced. So a lot of, I mean, every few stages you can replace or you can fit in something that you need to custom code and keep the others. So yes, answer is yes. Most VCs are okay to invest in startups that are using some level or extensively no code platform behind, um, because they know once you can prove the business model and once you have the funding, you can always build the tech team and take it forward, as long it's not a deep tech business.
Perfect, perfect. So those kinds of startups are like e-commerce. Those startups are like what kind of startups usually?
Actually, majority of startups that you see around are not deep tech. I mean, like us, building quick reach. Obviously, you cannot do that with a no code, right? Because the whole offering is a no code platform, so you can possibly do that. But everything, most things around, you'll see. Other than even e-commerce, let's say you want to build something um, like a Grab, right? Grab or Uber or something like that, which is like a ride hailing, or some kind of a gig economy startup. You can very much do that with a no code today. Mix and match different things, or use a whole platform. Um, what else? Fintechs, loan processing, or some kind of a cutting edge insurance tech. All of those are pretty much doable using no code. And no code has evolved along since the last 4 or 5 years, right? So it's very much doable. Maybe some, and sometime even if you have something that tends to have something deep tech, like you're using some AI to do the qualification of someone trying to get a loan, you can actually have that component program, and the rest of the platform can still be a no code. So there are very creative ways to go about it, and I think at an early stage of a startup, it's never a good idea to code it from ground up. They can be much more agile. They can be much more swift in responding to the needs they see in the market and test it out using no code.
Perfect, perfect. So product market fit first, like what Sisa said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Um. All right. So for the designers in the room, is it necessary to have design skills or technical skills to get started with no code? So maybe we could start with Sisa or Calver.
I can start.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
here in Ontario, we run a 6-week course on no code and marketing fundamentals with our Web Hub. So it's in partnership with the government, and we help people in hospitality and retail. People that work at restaurants and fashion stores transition into marketing and tech. So in the application, we try to determine their tech savviness by asking them to rate themselves their skills on a scale of 1 to 10. So 1 being, can you post on Facebook? 5 and 6, can you work a spreadsheet? And 10, if you've ever tried to build a website. Doesn't even have to be a great website. You just tried, right? So we get a lot of 5 to 7s with no previous experience in tech, or they come from some other career. And they come up with like amazing outputs in a weekend or a week. So you know even when I give workshops at incubators and accelerators, and the first week they haven't heard of no code, after a weekend they're asking advanced questions already. So it really is for everybody. And technical skill, no technical skill required at all. Just patience, understanding. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
How about for Calver and Luis?
Yeah. Let me go first. No? So
For sure.
actually, so it's a plus point actually if you have a basic technical skills, but it's not a deal breaker if you don't have or if you don't know how to code. So what you need more, I think, is more on the logical and critical thinking on how you build your project or your product without coding. So tools already are available right now. The resources, the tutorials are already free in the internet. So and the community of also the of no coding actually is growing not only here in the Philippines but globally. So everything actually you need is in front of your computer. So you can create product website. You just need to search on how to do it without writing a code. So again, the purpose of no code tool is to enable people, especially who don't have that technical background, to build something. So we want to break the code barrier to make it creating something awesome.
Perfect, perfect. No code is for everyone, for your lola, for your tita. How about Luis?
Yeah, yeah. So someone, I think someone with a technical background would find it easier to start building apps using low code
Mhm.
versus the coding or pro code. Um, but to succeed in this space, we still need to set up standards. Engineering standards, even as simple as naming conventions, design and UX best practices, and even automated deployments, even for low code. So, but what we love about low code platforms is, again, a lot of barriers are significantly lowered for design people, for business people, for product people like myself. People without software engineering background are now enabled to create apps. So are technical skills necessary? It's a plus, but it's not a requirement. So here's a story. Before we started trying out systems, it's one of the low-code apps out there. Someone from my team has like 20 plus years of experience using C Sharp .NET, and he built like an app within a day using OutSystems versus someone from the team using it for the first time, has no background in coding or in C Sharp .NET or any Microsoft stack, has finally built his app after a month. So you'll get there at that point, but yeah, definitely if you have a background in a technical perspective, that would be a really advantageous for you.
Yes, that's right. And
Maybe let
also,
me chime in. Sorry, let me
go
chime
ahead,
into
sir.
the second part of your question,
For
which
sure.
was related to the design. And I want to emphasize that, in fact, like Sisa was talking about, with no code, companies have more time to think about design. And I'm not talking about just making it look good on the UI side, but the key is in the experience, how you design the whole workflow, how you design how the users are interacting with the system. And the magic is of design is, you never get it right up front, so you have to see how people react to it. And the magic of no code is you can actually build and give it to their hand, and they can actually try, and you can observe them where they're getting stuck, and then you can on the fly fix it and give it to them. That was like
Yes.
impossible to do on the traditional coding side. So I think with a good use of no code, but with a good design thinking approach in mind, you can do amazing experiences, which is actually a big problem in the lot of startups, because or actually enterprise apps. I mean, what happens in enterprise apps is you have a lousy experience, but you just train the user to figure it out and use it forever. But when you're trying to build a startup, or you're building a product that you want anyone and everyone in the public to use, UX is key. And user experience, I think no code can do amazing things there. So definitely, so there are two aspects to the design. One is the user experience in terms of the screen and the flow, but there is another important aspect on which we have been spending a lot of time and energy on, which is the service design side, meaning the interaction between people, machines, systems, and information. And there is a efficient way of doing things, and service design actually enables that. In fact, when you our the foundation of quick reach we built around service design. So if someone gets a little bit good at that, and they can actually make the entire experience, because a lot of technologies when you deal with, it's quite a pain. I mean, while we said, no code is for the Lolas and everyone, I hope it will be, but a lot of time, most of the systems are difficult to use. And that's the reason the adoption is low. I think the great thing with no code can be when we all train everyone to think like a designer, and make wonderful experiences out of it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah,
I'd
they
like
should
to. Oh, sorry. I'd
go
like
ahead,
to.
Cecil.
I'd like to add to it because now you talk about design thinking. I get excited because design thinking, and design sprints is like my bread and butter. And no code slots really well into the prototyping mindset. That these frameworks hone in entrepreneurs, and it's pretty common that no code makers get super excited and they go straight to building without prioritizing a design process, and that's something I really don't encourage. The thing is, even if you can build fast, doesn't mean you should. But if you're doing it for the wrong persona, or if you find that down the line that you're solving the wrong problem, then you wasted your time, building instead of spending the 4 or 5 days validating your idea through a design sprint. And actually, like, it's ironic because I think no code makers are actually natural design thinkers, via creative problem solving and prototyping. So, when you start getting into no code, I recommend you do take advantage of that design process too. Never skip it.
Perfect. Yeah. Actually, like what you guys mentioned, no coders are actually stuck with the rabbit hole of building endless screens, endless designs. I'm a no coder myself, so I feel like I can relate to you guys. When I go straight to building. I don't do design thinking. I don't do interviews. I don't do UX research, and it keeps me on the loop of designing and developing, and it never stops. And at the end of the day, I never launch. So I think it's very important, like what you said about considering design thinking, UX research, interviews, making sure that you're talking to the right personas, and at the same time, before you start building, it's like similar with how you're building a product. You also need to make sure that you have the customer in mind, the target users in mind. So I do like the idea of that one, but a lot of the no coders are more into like going into the product. So maybe you guys can give your opinions or your unpopular opinion of people getting into no code or low code to get started. So for me first, because I like to, I like to share mine. So for me, my unpopular opinion is it's like similar to coding. It takes time, patience, a lot of effort, and just like learning how to code, you also need to dedicate your time. You also need to dedicate your patience. And as long as you have patience, you can definitely build the product. So maybe you guys can share your opinions as well. So maybe Calver?
Yeah. So no code actually. Like I like what. Sorry. I like what Sisa said. So let's more focus on the problem that we're trying to solve. So no code tool is just a tool again, just to help us build something that we can validate to our customers. So we don't in the traditional development, we will wait for 2 months, 4 months to create an MVP. But right now, if we know what the problems we're trying to solve, who are the people that we're trying to help, and also what are the possible impact or outcomes that we're trying to achieve, then I think no code can help validate us the process or the product that we're building.
Let me share a real experience. So, like we said, we made it super easy in quick reach to build anything you want. And more than one client, what has happened is they quickly jumped into digitalizing their process. And as a result, what has happened is they just picked up whatever they were doing manually and moved it to like digital. And then by the time they tried rolling it out, they realized they have actually made the process harder, because when they were doing it on paper, they actually had an escape hatch. They could easily, not follow something in case of emergency and all. But by digitizing and putting very strict boundaries around it, they realized that now they have, if someone is on leave and is not able to approve something, and they're like stuck with it. So and they had to, a lot of them had to go back to again to our suggestion that you need to think through the process, you need to design it, you need to validate the ideas and optimize it before you digitize. So that actually is a problem with no code, people jumping into building things without thinking through the process. Because earlier, when with the traditional coding, it was expensive, it was hard, so there was a rigor where people were at least trying to think upfront. Not that it's a foolproof, a lot of traditional projects also go south towards like that without thinking through entire thing. But generally, because it's expensive, it takes time, people were thinking and doing I mean, even if they don't go to the user experience part, maybe at least they're doing interaction diagrams or whatever, some or other, writing user stories or something like that, whatever is their practice. There was some level of work, pre-work before coding. Nowadays, because it's so easy, people jump into the screen and try to make it up on that, and that's actually the wrong thing to do. I think we should rather spend more time on the design, and from all the time we're saving on the coding, to create a good system. And that's the unpopular I guess opinion on that.
Mhm. Sisa has two. So Maybe she can share some.
Okay. Well, something I see with first-time founders and no coders a lot is ugly baby syndrome, coupled with managerial. So basically, it's helicopter perfectionism and defensiveness, and in the first one, no one wants to know ang pangit ng anak mo, right? Like no one wants to know that their baby is ugly. So in the no-code world and tech in general, most of your time is spent working on like skeletons and half-baked screens, trying to test and iterate. So, your product could look sexy, but there's no point if it isn't designed and tested with the intention of making mistakes to learn something from it. Because sometimes you have two paths or three paths, and like you don't know which of those design paths to take. But if you participate in the no code community and build in public community on Twitter, you can quickly see that that's a bad habit and bad habit, and it's quickly dispelled when you see how people who are succeeding actually had to fail to get there. My second unpopular opinion is the developer versus no coder beef. I don't think there should be a clash, right? I think this is a flywheel. The no code isn't the absence of code. It's just code turned into modular pieces that you can use like Lego. So instead of me waiting for the developer, I'll take care of the login page and the membership. But we forget that developers are creators too. So the time that I'm saving them from, having to write out like this technical document when I can just, like here's this is how exactly it should work, and I'll probably build like all the other pieces. Now you have time to create something new, like invent the new emerging tech, like things that we haven't even heard of. And I think that's also a better investment of a company's time, putting their resources into the developers now that they have more bandwidth through no code.
Yeah. For me, it's about looking in the near future, right? Because currently we're in the explosion stage. Everyone's doing their own apps using low code. I myself, I've built like a lot of apps, even from templates, right? So there's like a lot of my apps right now, but eventually, I think cracks will appear, and you'll realize creating a software is really um, costly, and companies realize that, or startups realize that, whether you create a software with code or maybe with no code, it still has to be supported and maintained and upgraded regularly. I think that's one of the my unpopular opinions. So, who's going to support all of these low code applications that you've built? Is it yourself? Is it some citizen developers out there? Is it going to be your IT team that you're going to be eventually hiring in the future? And also, did anyone stop and ask if low-code applications are really easy to maintain or deploy or even test as a QA? Or you've been doing things rapidly, building apps, rapid prototyping, and say, did you also rapidly create your documentation at the same time? So has anyone meant to understand this 6 months, 12 months, or even 2 years later when you start scaling up? So yeah, I think it's going to be like that by 1,000 apps in the future.
Perfect. Okay. So
Maybe,
another, yeah,
if
go
I
ahead.
may, I actually agree on Luis on that, and this seems to be a perennial problem, even with the traditional, right? Because people kind of think that if you built it first time and it's over, and it will run forever or something like that. But the reality of any tech is actually reaching your first MVP or first release is actually the start of the opening the tap to spend more money. It doesn't stop there, and lot of whether enterprise projects or startups, they only think up to the first release, and then they get surprised that, oh, I have to still spend money on this for the next till whatever, and actually I'll be spending more money than what I have spent so far. So that's a real challenge, and that's a mindset that needs to be fixed. Though the effort goes down from a traditional, because if it's a C sharp or a Java code and someone doesn't have any documentation, the developer's first instinct is to throw everything out and rewrite it. That's what everyone will tell you. When it comes to the low code, like Luis was talking about OutSystem and all, maybe at this stage, let me give a little bit my perspective on low code and no code. So low codes are typically those tools built for developers. I mean, the real audience of a low code in the traditional sense is a developer who knows enough and he picks it up and he just cuts his development time, because he can use that same theories and concepts. While the no code movement is actually kind of, while no code and low code always gets talked in the same breath, the no code movement actually has a different philosophy where it's professing the need of citizen developer, where it's saying that one out of, I forgot the number, 7,000 or 5,000 people actually can code, and why can't we enable the rest of those 5,000 to become a programmer? So two different philosophy, and a typical no code expert probably would not be able to do much on a low code without getting extensive training, and the purpose of a no code is usually different from a low code. So I'll not get into that. So but the point that Luis made of having documentation of at least the thought process and how you went about it, so that whoever is touching that in future needs to be able to deal with it and not have to start from scratch, is very important.
Perfect. Actually, while we were discussing about maintaining it, making sure there's documentation, I just wanted to ask that do you guys believe that no code or low code is not scalable or scalable, and why?
Should I? Because I have a strong opinion on that, and not
Go ahead.
because
Go ahead.
so typically the world over is of the opinion that no code is not scalable, while a low code is more scalable, and traditional development is the most scalable. That's the general popular
Mhm.
opinion in the
Yes.
market. And if you look at even reports by Gartners and all, a lot of them talk about that. But this is changing rapidly. In fact, the reason we built Steer is towards that end. So like the foundation of the quick reach foundation is built on microservice architecture. So the same module that someone is using for 10 people, if all of a sudden it needs to scale for 10 million, it can do it in the same breath, and it doesn't require any change. uh, Admittedly, the cost and other factors will go up, but at least you don't have to change anything to do that. So so I guess, going back to the question, that was how it was, and probably some of the systems are still that way, but it's changing, and depending on your need, you can choose tools that can be temporary prototyping type, and then you will switch over to something, or you can choose something that will work for your prototyping, and then if the business scales up, you can continue scaling with that. So it's a choice of tool, I suppose, and how you build it.
Okay. Um, I have two more last questions. First is, where do you see the future of no code and low code going? So, Sisa, Luis, do you want to answer that one?
Sure.
Yeah, for me, I think it's sorry.
You can go
Go
ahead.
ahead, ladies first.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
no, Luis can go. It's okay.
Okay, thank you for that. I think really the future of local is for us. It's really specific as a venture builder. It's shipping out MVPs, prototypes, experiments out in the market really fast, because the period of time between the conception of an idea until like solutioning and shipping it out to the market, it's really important. How fast you do it is it could be really significant for your business. Um, Especially if there's like a common event that's happening right now, let's say COVID, where everyone's forced to innovate and digitize the experiences, right? So if there you have an idea, most likely someone out there already has that idea in mind. So really important to rapidly solution it, and I think low code is one of the tools out there that enables teams like us, like startups, to ship out products at a rapid pace and test it out. That was okay, Kwanso, Sisa.
Thank you. I think no code is going to bleed into every part of the workforce, and the spectrum of things that we can no code is just going to spread wider. We already have no code game development. We have no code AI, by voice of sentiment analysis. It's not all there yet, but I think we'll see also a lot of general specialists. Like 6 years ago, I was a graphic designer. 2 years later, I specialized in UX, and now I'm a no code design sprint facilitator. So I think we'll see a lot of hybrid experts in no code. And I imagine in a couple of years, it'll even be part of, like administration roles, like platforms like Glide, they already identified that operational value that no code has. And I guess whatever role you're currently in, if you learn how to no code, it'll level up that role in your specific field. And there's just so many applications. You don't always have to be a startup or an entrepreneur to get involved with no code. It just generally make your life easier. And like Bubble has been ramping up their databases, making it more robust. So like how we know no code now is going to be different 5 years later. Maybe it'll be called a different buzzword too. So that's what I'm foreseeing.
No code unicorns.
So,
Well, that's for me.
Winnie,
Go ahead, sir.
let me add one of the Gartner's data projection that answers your question. So, according to Gartner, 65% of all application development by 2024 is projected to be no code or low code. So that's how big it's supposed to be. And remember, in the 2 to 3 years, the software development itself is actually supposed to be more than twice of what it is because of the demand. So it's huge. It's like what Sisa was talking about. Literally everyone is going to dribble around some or other things in some or other ways.
And lastly, Calver, you're on mute.
Hello.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so I agree with other panelists. So actually, there's a lot of plan for the no code, and also we're expecting a lot of apps or softwares. It will be developed in no code for the next 2 to 3 years. So there are already some news and updates about the app development, game development, video, voice assistant. So there's a lot of things that we need to watch out for. So for the last 2 years that we are in here in the pandemic, so people now adapted with the digital world or the digital transformation. So it means that we have more problems that we can solve through technology, and using with no code we can do it fast. So there are more opportunities that we can take on.
Perfect, perfect. So okay, so my final question for the panel is what's your three key takeaways for a founder, for a startup professional, or for a student who are just getting into no code and low code? So maybe we can start with Sir Arup first. Three key takeaways.
Maybe not three, but just thought process here, because we have been hearing a lot about why everyone should learn to code from so many sources. The reality is coding is not for everyone, and this is coming from me, running a software company over the years. It Some people have it and some people just don't. So even if you train as much, some people can never be a good programmer in the traditional sense. But that is broken by no code and low code. So today, everyone can be a developer, but not necessarily in the traditional sense of coding, but using no code and low code. And they should. because this changes how you think, how you see the world, and how you solve the problem. That's what I would like to say.
Perfect. Okay. Sisa?
My three tips would be to find the community to grow and learn with. It's super important and it's super easy to find. Share your experiences even if you're just starting out, because the no code community is so helpful, and they'll always come to your aid. Don't be afraid of imperfection, because sometimes that's what stops you from going to the next step. You don't always have to be flawless. And that also is where like self-doubt comes from, trying to be perfect all the time. Maybe I'm projecting, who knows. And don't give the design process, talk to your users even before build, test a lot, and it actually never ends. Always keep testing and pick problems that matter to you. A lot of founders would want to be, they just pick a problem so they can become a founder or become a startup. But then if you're trying to solve something that you can't relate to, then I don't see you staying in, that line very long. So yeah, those are my tips.
All right. How about you, Luis?
Yeah. So for me, first thing is assess your product or solution, or the problem that you're solving, if low code is really the right platform for you. If possible, again, as Cisa said, consult with uh, communities, consult with the experts out there. There's a lot of experts out there about low code. Research and a lot of research. So more YouTube videos, read a lot of tutorial videos. Um, and attend local events like this. Just like ProCode as well, building needs a lot of focus on the momentum, basing from my personal experience as well. It's difficult, at least for me, doing this in between meetings, in between maybe classes, or even if you have a dedicated day within a week. It's difficult to find time and be in that zone. But find the time that you know would work best for you, is what I would advise. And finally, accept the fact that no code or low code, it's not a direct replacement of pro code. So know when best to use it and not to use it.
Great tips. And lastly, Kelver?
So, okay. So I just want to make it clear that we will not replace the software engineers, programmers, or developers
Of
in the
course.
future. So, we will be needing their help more than ever. So instead, no code, we will just work hand in them in building future apps and software. So no code will just allow us to create easy tasks and automate the simple things. Like Sisa said, the login, the membership part. We If we can do that part, then we can help the developers or programmers. So that our developers can focus more on the intents or customized features for the products that we are building. Then second, also let's change the mindset of building something perfect or complete app right away before launching it. So don't wait for that too long. So let's start maximizing or democratizing these available tools right now that we have. So don't to create something small or validate it right away. So don't worry if you don't have all the solutions to the problems that you're trying to solve. So the most important thing is to start now and build fast. So otherwise, you might be too late to do it. Then lastly, I encourage everyone to be the new makers of this generation. So let's try this no code tool or no code movement that we're talking about. So everyone that is listening right now, so we are all pioneers here in this new era. So we are at the beginning of this new movement for the software development. So we already experienced it, and it's already grown for the last past for the 1 year alone. So the demand of these digital products is increasing. So we're in the new era that enables and give more people the power to create by breaking this code barrier.
Perfect, perfect. I love that. And lastly, for me, for you guys, have fun. it doesn't have to be perfect like what they say. I started as a hobbyist. I just wanted to learn a new tool because I'm bored. So you can definitely learn a new tool and learn a new skill. You don't really need to launch a business. You just really need to start like learn a new skill that can be handy in your job, in your career. So no code gives me an edge to actually like test ideas, practice my design skills, practice my management skills. So have fun in the process. Don't pressure yourself. Learn as much as you can. And if no code is the perfect fit for you, definitely you can use it for your startup. But other than that, enjoy the process. So start no coding. Where can no coders or low coders follow you guys on your socials? So maybe we can start with Sir Aru.
They can find me on LinkedIn, perhaps. So, one word, Arup Maiti, they can search and that should be available. That's probably the best place they can connect. And I would love to help out, answer any questions they may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sisa.
I'm Sticky Sisa on Twitter, as in sticky notes. So that's the best place to reach me. Otherwise, you can go to designofftheboat.com and leave me a message there.
Luis. Thank you, Sisa.
So yeah, everyone feel free to reach me out at my LinkedIn. You can also check our FDevs Twitter and LinkedIn. Also, we're relaunching our website, so feel free to visit it. It's teamf.dev. So yeah, see you there.
Okay, and lastly, Calver.
So you can link me or connect me with in LinkedIn. Then if you can also like and follow the page of Webflow PH. So we'll be doing that a series of monthly meetups for the Webflow development or website development without coding.
Okay, perfect. And lastly, you can follow me at Minri Makapugay at Twitter. I tweet about no code and NFTs, so if you like those. And then you can follow us as well at comlab.io. So we make components and templates for Adalo. So we help Adalo makers around the globe to make sure their app is perfect before launch. So going back to you, Crystal.
It's so awesome to have heard about no code from the experts. For me, I enjoyed learning from them about their recommendations on the right way to do no code. And I know you guys enjoyed the panel too. So let's give our panel a virtual round of applause. And that's it for today's event. We hope you learned a lot about no code and low code. Don't forget to check out nocode.ph if you want to join a community of no coders and low coders in the Philippines. Thank you, everyone.